Mike Sando of The Athletic released his QB tiers based on the votes and input of coaches and executives around the league. Now, here's the top tier of QBs. Mahomes, Burrow, Josh, Lamar, and Stafford. Now, the tier 1 definition, this is important because you're like, are these guys just the best? Like, well, this is specifically what they are. Tier 1 quarterback can carry his team each week. The team wins because of him. He expertly handles pure passing situations. He has no real holes in his game. Joe's unanimous. Josh and Lamar not unanimous. Anybody have any issues with the top tier? And also, Coach Mangini's here.
What's up, Coach?
My takeaway from this is, because if you remember last year, coming off an MVP, Lamar was tier 2. Remember that?
Oh,
and
wow.
So this was Lamar's.
And that was those numbers weren't terrific.
His passing, and so these coaches and executives, what they value mirrors a lot of what coach values, which is that last line you read, which is pure passing situations, which is why you could justify having Joe Burrow. Again, he's on the same tier as Josh and Lamar, but Josh and Lamar were not unanimous. Joe was, and it's because other than Mahomes, and this is, I think, the point Coach was making a few weeks ago that I disagreed with him on, but it's echoed here, 3rd and 9, who do you want? These GMs are saying, I'd like that guy. Now, I don't think I'd rather have Josh Allen than any quarterback but Patrick Mahomes, because in 3rd and 9, he can throw it, but he also can run it for those 9 yards. Like him running for a first down on 3rd and long, not only is it not crazy, it's pretty typical.
Yeah.
And so I just think Josh has more ways to hurt you and is not as flawed passer as he was early in his career to where it dips down. But that's, to me, the way I read this.
But when you look at the definition, it's what I talk about all the time, where the whole stadium knows you have to pass. Who is that guy that can go in there and be the most effective in that moment? And obviously, Patrick gets the nod over Burrow because he's done it in the biggest moments and he's done it so consistently. But then Burrow's the next guy. We're from a pure passing perspective, which is the most important trait of the quarterback. Joe is the best next pure passer, and I would agree with the 2 levels after that, where I think Josh is a little bit better than Lamar is from a pure passing standpoint.
Obviously those 4 are tier 1. I don't know how 2 MVPs for Lamar, 1 for Josh, none for Burrow. Like, at some point, what you do has to matter. And they're all tier 1. They all should have been unanimous. I mean, who's running a team that said Josh and Lamar aren't tier 1?
But when we talked about it, I said those other 3, take Patrick out of the mix. If you put those other 3 guys in a draft, you'd probably have a third of the league that drafts Joe, a third of the league that drafts Josh, and a third of the league that would draft Lamar, depending on what you like.
And I said I thought you were insane, but this, to be clear, I think it's wrong, but it looks like you have unanimity in your wrongness on it, or a lot of people agree with you.
50 on them.
Well, I also think, though, when you look at the passing, and again, I love Burrow. I think all 4 of them should be unanimous. But Burrow does have arguably the best receiving duo in the league. Neither Lamar or Josh has certainly not an above average. Like they've got an average receiving core at best. And the numbers Lamar put up last year, he did it with like an average receivers. Joe has had these tremendous receivers.
And Josh last year won the MVP because of what he didn't do, which was turn the ball over. And that was a huge knock against him. And that's still every time you start the next season, it's which Josh Allen are we going to get? The one that had the 19 or 21 turnovers, whatever it was, or what we saw last year. And then with Lamar, it's been in the biggest moments, can he perform? And up till last year, now I know he had those 2 drops, but up until last year, hadn't beaten Pittsburgh, and in big moments, hadn't come up big. So now, as you go into this next season, are we going to get the Lamar that can come up in big moments, or are we going to get the Lamar that doesn't?
But this is where and again, 2 years ago, I was the guy saying, everyone has elevated. We weren't even talking about Lamar like this 2 years ago because he was coming off 2 years where he got hurt. I was the guy saying everyone elevated Josh Allen above Joe Burrow because Josh lost to Mahomes in spectacular fashion and Burrow beat Mahomes and we didn't care. And I thought it was insane. But now 2 years removed, when we are talking about Josh and Lamar versus Burrow, Josh, once he removed the turnovers, to me, is clearly the second most dangerous player in the league. Like that, Josh Allen, when he's not turning the ball over at a historic rate, which he was early the first 4 years of his career, there's very few holes in the game that you can find. And Lamar, I am probably Lamar's loudest skeptic on TV, but I can't hold Lamar's playoff failures against him to elevate a guy who hasn't completed a single pass in the playoffs the last couple of years because he hasn't been in it. Like that to me is dirty pool, to be like, you were here, but because you screwed up in the playoffs, you fell here, and this guy who missed the playoffs just stays there. Like that.
But
so
as
that
you look
to
at
me
the
is
body
not fair.
As you look at the body of work, though, you're also, as a GM or head coach, thinking, who can beat the best player in the NFL? And Joe Burrow has shown that he can beat the best player in the NFL. So you get credit for that point.
All right, there
I
we go.
agree with that, Coach.
Here we go.
If you beat the best player if you beat the best team, if you score 4 touchdowns.
Well, if you're the reason that you beat the best player in the NFL.
If you throw 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, so let's go to him, KW.
Who are you even talking about?
Well,
Mine's a hypothetical.
KW, it's the only thing you want to talk about ever.
Meanwhile, Super Bowl MVP Jalen Hurts tied for 9th. CJ Stroud in Tier 2. There's 9 guys total in Tier 2. Now here's the definition of Tier 2. Jayden, Herbert, Goff, Stroud, Hurts, Bake Show, Dak, J-Lo, and Purdy. Again, it's fluid.
Where have we heard this?
This is just...
Y'all mock me, you shame me, you
fluid.
say I don't know what I'm talking
9
about.
guys.
50 GMs, executives, coaches, they agree with me, Coach. I mean, that's what I've been saying.
6 to 14 is what you say?
He says
About
5
that.
to 15.
Yeah,
5
it's
to
about
15,
it.
6 to
Yeah.
14. It's
It's
fluid.
fluid.
Yeah.
You want to hear the
Absolutely
definition
fluid.
so we're all arguing about the same thing?
Sure.
A quarterback who can carry his team sometimes, but not as consistently.
Yeah.
Okay? He can handle pure passing situations in doses and/or possesses other dimensions that are special enough to elevate him above Tier 3.
Yeah.
He has a hole or two in his game.
Can I ask, since this is your pet project?
It's not. I didn't even ask
Do
the
you
question.
not think that paragraph right there perfectly describes Jalen? It's not a knock.
Yes,
Isn't
I do.
that
I do.
you?
That's why I think the whole thing is nonsense.
Okay.
And I wrote my
But
my own definition.
Okay. Yeah. Let's hear it.
Would you like to hear it?
I'd love nothing.
Because this feels like, hey, can we write a definition to keep Jalen Hurts in Tier 2? Like, I got it.
This has been the definition
I
for
got it.
The whole
15
time.
years.
Well, you know
He's
what?
done these when Jalen Hurts was in Pee Wee
Well,
football.
15 years ago, you could have an NBA definition like not great at the three-pointer. Well, that's a good thing. That's a big thing nowadays.
Now it is.
Okay, go ahead. So let's hear yours.
A quarterback who can excel in any physical or emotional environment and is able to take his game to another level when the situation demands it. He has a solution for every problem. And he is so good, the league tried to outlaw his bias. I just don't think, moral of the story, situational excellence and playing really well in the playoffs is taken into account. So the other part of this, reason why I tore up the theoretical survey, is this sentence. Hurts' standing in tiers barely changed after his Eagles won the Super Bowl. Then what do we?
But it also
what are we
barely,
doing?
hold on, it barely changed after they had the supernatural funk coming off a Super Bowl. He has been
Tier 2.
Right in the middle of Tier 2. Once he got him to the Super Bowl, he elevated to Tier 2. Then last year, he wasn't killed in this because the team fell. He failed your own definitional test. He couldn't excel in any circumstance. That team fell apart in historic fashion, and he didn't drop that far. And then he had this year where the team took off again. Once they stopped passing the ball a ton is when they took off. Now maybe that's coincidental. He didn't elevate
That
super
is
high.
true, though, for Allen. I mean, I know
Yeah.
we're not doing that, but Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, they did it this year. Is your argument, I thought your beef was that he's tied for 9th. You're actually saying he should be tier 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, why does Stafford deserve to be tier 1?
I don't think Stafford should be tier 1.
So who deserves that 5th spot on tier 1?
He thinks it should just be 4.
Yeah, just those.
Brew thinks it should be 4.
Can I take you through why
please.
he is where he is? And when you look at Jalen Hurts over the course of his career, the more that they limited him, the more successful they came.
Yeah.
So when Jalen Hurts threw over 30 passes, okay, look at the difference between that and when he threw under 30. So he's 39 when he's under 30 attempts. Over 30, he goes to 22 and 14. That's a 16% difference, winning percentage difference. And look at the volume of interceptions. And when they started last year, the first 4 games, he attempted 30 passes in all 4 games. They went 2-2. The next 10 games, they attempted 30 passes 1 time, and they went 10-0. So what they realized is if we keep him under the league average in the 2000s is over 32.4 passes. If we keep him under 30 passes, we've got a much better chance to win. So that's not really a tier 1 quarterback.
No, I agree with that. My thing now, Wilds, I'll give you this. I think he should be ahead of C.J. Stroud, Justin Herbert, and Jared Goff. And here's why. Look at his numbers last year compared to Stroud and Herbert. I mean, this is like his numbers are just better.
I mean, Herbert's right there with him. But Herbert,
Herbert
played his worst in the playoffs.
And they did the same thing to Herbert. Now, Herbert obviously throws a better ball, I believe, But Jim Harbaugh did the same thing to Herbert. He said, look, we're not throwing as much.
And then Herbert imploded.
Once they threw the ball in the playoffs, he imploded. And Goff, I think, to your point, it's about the postseason for these guys. And Jalen we know Goff is known to struggle in the playoffs through 3 interceptions in the NFC game against Washington, the playoff game. And we know Hurts is excellent in the postseason. So those 3 I would move Hurts ahead of, but I still think they're all tier 2.
Philly has a tier 1 GM.
Well, I think, listen, what they wrote about him in this thing, what the GM said was they think he's a good player on a really good roster, which I think is not a wholly unfair thing to say. Now, we will see how he evolves over the course of his career because it's not always going to be – Saquon's not always going to be a 2,000-yard player. We already saw it. You know, Landon Dickerson, unfortunately, just went down. Like, they shouldn't be up front quite as stacked this year as they were last year, and we'll see. But if we can just have an extra minute, I just want to show 2 terrible tweets. Here's their opposite ends of the spectrum here. Let's start with Danny, who's going to be joining First Things First in the 5 o'clock hour after our vacation, who saw this and wrote this. Another ranking of the people who actually do the job, coaches, scouts, GMs. That is Justin Herbert above Jalen Hurts. Yet Eagles fans live in my mentions and DMs staying mad. Now, I can report firsthand that this tweet infuriated Kevin Wilde so much, he wrote a response tweet and then deleted it.
It's not worthy of.
And then, I find his tweet as ridiculous as yours.
Why?
Not just because yours, you were doing it every 5 days and then you got too busy, too many Topo Chicos on Sunday, so you had to do 24 days until 25. But you keep writing the same thing. That all these players are working so they can have a resume slightly worse than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
And I asked you this on the air once before, kind of trying to convince you to stop sending this tweet. Who are these guys that we think can win the Super Bowl, that if they win the Super Bowl and win Super Bowl MVP, they have a worse resume than Jalen? Because it's not Patrick, Josh, Lamar, Burrow, Stafford, Goff, Jayden, Purdy.
Why wouldn't it be Joe Burrow? How many Super Bowls Joe? Oh, yeah, he lost one. You're right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So if this is just like if Baker or Dak win the Super Bowl, they have a worse resume than Jalen. But the guys who we think can win the Super Bowl,
Mahomes,
it's not
Josh, Lamar, and
Burrow,
and
Stafford.
And Stafford, if Stafford can get to another Super
Brock
Bowl,
Purdy,
that would be great.
Goff. All those guys, they wouldn't have a worse resume.
But all of them can't get there, obviously. All 5 of those guys can't win the Super Bowl.
No.
And Hurts did finish second in MVP. So there you go.
That's good.
He's
good for Hurts.
Yeah.
I don't buy the idea that Jalen Hurts is stuck in tier 2 forever, no matter what he does.
No,
I don't see how
would
that
give
makes
you that.
sense on a survey. Like, hey, is there anything this guy can do? If I told you last year Jalen Hurts in tier 2, right? If we get in our time machine last year, same thing. Jalen Hurts is tier 2. We're having the same argument. And I said to everybody, I was like, listen, what if Jalen Hurts leads the Eagles to not the best record in the entire NFL, but a really good record, and plows through the playoffs and wins Super Bowl MVP, and he plays great in this, and just for fun, let's say he outplays Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I think.
Is anyone willing to move him up? And everyone says,
no. I think people.
Then what
KW, I think people would have been.
That's what happened.
No, so I think the very first part of your statement, people disagree with. I think Coach disagrees with. I don't think people look that Jalen Hurts led the Eagles through that regular season. I don't think they do. I think they think that Saquon Barkley, the number 1 defense, and Jalen Hurts in his 18 touchdown passes didn't lead them. So that's where I think it's a difference.
Who led them? Saquon?
So
Saquon went from the Giants, who were no good, and he was just kind of given away from the Giants. The Eagles grabbed him, and all of a sudden, he's the guy leading him, not the guy who had previously gone to the Super Bowl?
The difference between the tier 1 and the tier 2 is Jalen Hurts is a reason why the Eagles won. He's not the reason why the Eagles won. Where the tier 1 guys are the reason typically their teams win.
What would I compare it to? Draymond Green. Is Draymond Green a tier 1 NBA player?
I don't think that is a fair comp.
No, but go ahead. What were you about to say?
My major issue is with the tier 1 guys, they don't win. That's the issue.
Hold on. Well, but that's
one guy won. One guy won. Stafford and Jalen Hurts played. One guy won. And then one guy went to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So we just say, well, they're not the reason. Jalen Hurts not the reason the team wins. Well, the other guys literally don't win.
But I don't think, KW, I don't think it is based purely off last season alone, which is why I think last year, we could check, I'm almost certain, last year in tiers, Jalen was ahead of Baker. Baker played him in the playoffs, played great. Jalen was the tip of the spear of a collapse, and people still had Jalen ahead of him. Like you're saying that he can't move up. I think he has moved up, and he can move up further. No, I mean he has stayed tier 2, but you ranked him numerically. He has gotten closer to tier 1.
You guys think he can't be tier 1? Like,
I think he could.
Exercise. If they win the Super Bowl this year and he's like, I think he's tier 1 next year.
Yeah,
but he's going to be defined by winning.
If he can throw more than 30 passes, they can win games. Yeah, that'd be.
But Josh Allen is doing the same thing. They started winning last year or 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
But 2 years ago when he wasn't throwing the football.
Last year he won league MVP because he had awesome numbers.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.